With 216 responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we resume our holding of a privilege hour.
Any objection? Hearing none. Privilege hour is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move at this point that we recognize the Honorable Sherwin Tugna, representative of CIBAC Party List, for his privileged speech.
The Honorable Tugna of Party List CIBAC is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, my dear colleagues. Today, I am going to talk about reforming and strengthening our government policies and institutions that address the needs of our government workers. And this representation is doing so as a measure to reduce corruption. Existing legislation is replete with laws and regulations that address and punish corruption of government employees and public officials. Under the revised penal code, we have provisions punishing direct bribery, indirect bribery, and malversation of public funds and property. We also have the law that was enacted to deter public officials and employees from committing acts of dishonesty and improve the tone of morality in public service, Republic Act 3019, or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. In addition, we have the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards of Public Officials and Employees. Institution-wise, this chamber took part in the creation of the Office of the Ombudsman and the Sandigan Bayan, bodies to prosecute, hear, and try alleged acts of corruption of public officials. Correspondingly, there are numerous cases and decisions of the Supreme Court which punish those guilty of corruption with imprisonment, deprivation of office or employment, and forfeiture of all benefits granted under our laws. In the case of Ariel Santos versus People of the Philippines in the Sandigan Bayan, a labor arbiter was convicted for violations of the provisions of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. It resulted to his imprisonment and perpetual disqualification from public office. In Perlita Avancenia versus Judge Ricardo P. Liwanag, a municipal trial court judge was found guilty of violations of the provisions of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act for asking money to rule in favor of the complainant in a criminal case he was handling. In the said administrative case, the Supreme Court decided to impose one of the punishments mandated by Section 3, Rule 140 of the Rules of Court, which relates to serious charges. The judge was dismissed from service with forfeiture of benefits. Taking into account the revised penal code, the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards of Public Officials and Employees, the creation of the Office of the Ombudsman and the Sandigan Bayan, and the numerous cases of conviction decided by the Supreme Court, we can say that we have an abundance of laws that punish corruption. In short, Mr. Speaker, we are not lacking in direct prohibition and punishment. In fact, it is well covered, so to speak. However, what we seem to have overlooked are the basic needs and security of our government employees. As the actors that these laws seek to regulate, their basic needs and security must be addressed. That despite the existence of numerous laws, regulations, and decisions, why is it that red tape is prevalent in the bureaucracy? Maybe the needs of the government employees for a decent standard of living and security have not been addressed. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, this representation believes that addressing and improving the basic needs and strengthening the institutions that provide social security to our government employees would reduce corruption. Government employees must be insured socially. Social insurance as defined as programs providing protection against life course contingencies such as maternity, work-related possibilities such as unemployment or sickness, and old age benefits insurance. It includes, but is not limited to, wage that provides a decent life, sick leave benefits, vacation leave benefits, maternity and paternity leave benefits, bonuses, educational grants and insurance benefits, medical insurance, contingency insurance, housing and old age benefits insurance. Internationally, it is enshrined in Articles 22 and 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 9 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Although these are not legally binding instruments, they measure the concern and extent in which countries set up safety nets for their workers. More often, those in the government sector opt to involve themselves in corrupt activities and undesirable practices because they tend to gain more and lose less. In short, corruption is a low-risk, high-reward activity. Government employees whose basic needs are not addressed are more likely to succumb to temptations, since what they would gain is far greater than what they would lose. An ordinary government employee who receives a meager salary that is not sufficient to sustain him and his family may have a higher susceptibility to bribes, especially in times of family emergency. His gain from accepting the bribe is much higher, that is, money and solution to the family problem, than what he would lose in case he is caught, prosecuted, and convicted. For him, he will only lose insufficient social insurance benefits. This mindset must be changed. We must create a social insurance benefit system to government employees that they would perceive to be valuable and is in truth and in fact valuable. And how can we arrive at a valuable social insurance? Coming from the point of view of government employees. First, we can start by increasing the salaries of government workers. They must earn salaries decent enough to sustain their families, a wage that will provide a decent and humane standard of living and improve quality of life. Increase in salary must cover government employees in the national government agencies, GOCCs, government financial institutions, state universities and colleges, local government units, and all other branches of government. Given the inflation, the soaring prices of basic commodities and services, the present economic realities, the value of government workers' salaries has significantly decreased. In order to have a sufficient budget to fund the increase in salaries of government workers, there must be an improved collection of taxes. A significant portion of the additional revenues collected must be allocated and used to increase salaries of government employees. Of equal importance is a national program that would allocate a considerable portion of these revenues to the increase in the salary of government workers. Second, we should also include the social insurance aspect, which government employees rely in times of sickness, contingency, and old age. It must have integrity and must deliver timely and efficient services. Social insurance benefits for government employees are covered by the GSIS. It is created by Commonwealth Act No. 186 that was passed on November 14, 1936, and later amended under RA 8291, Republic Act No. 8291, dated June 24, 1997. It is intended to promote the efficiency and welfare of the government employees. There is a defined benefit scheme and insures its members against the occurrence of certain contingencies in exchange for their monthly premium contributions. The principal benefit package of the GSIS consists of compulsory and optional life insurance, separation, retirement, disability benefits for work-related accidents, and death benefits. Active members are entitled to the following loan privileges: salary, policy, emergency, and housing loans. As of June 2011, the average monthly pension received by an old age pensioner is 8,650 pesos. The survivors of a dissident is 2,442 pesos. And under disability and survivorship, 1,647 pesos. The question that hovers in my mind is that, are the benefits granted under the GSIS enough to guarantee a secured future for government employees that have given the prime years of their lives to public service? The answer is no. The figures are not enticing. The amount of pension must be increased. To do that, the fund must grow instead of being depleted. Taking into account the financial condition of the GSIS and after a careful study, the amount of pension must be increased. One of the problems that GSIS is facing is the continued decline of contributions for payment of benefits. In specific terms, total benefit payments made by GSIS grew by 10% annually from 17 billion in 2000 to 32.3 billion in 2007. On the other hand, member contributions rose from 35 billion in 2000 to only 41 billion in 2007, reflecting a measly 2% yearly increase. Thus, the ratio of contributions to benefit payments declined continuously from 2.1% in 2000 to 1.3% in 2007. There is poor compliance because the incentives for evasion are built within the design of pension benefits and contributions. For example, the minimum pension provision and the computation of pensions basing on salaries in the last 5 years of service tend to result in the evasion of appropriate premiums. In other words, these two provisions create incentives for workers and employers to collude by either underreporting earnings until the last 5 years of their working life and artificially boosting pay that is reported to the pension system in the last 5 years of their working life. This depletes the social insurance fund. As a result, there is a possibility that the funds will not be enough to pay for pensioners' benefits. This is just one of the challenges that GSIS is facing. To maintain the integrity of the government workers' state insurance fund, the following must be done: improve collection from employer contributors and members, prudence in investment of the funds, fast and efficient delivery of services to members so as not to demoralize government employees who have contributed a substantial part of their hard-earned salary to the fund. Aside from the social insurance benefits granted under the GSIS, there is also a need to check and improve the stability, integrity, and efficiency in the delivery of services of other state insurances such as PhilHealth and Pag-ibig Fund. The reforms in the salaries of government workers and the social insurance benefits must be prioritized by the government. There must be a comprehensive and integrated national plan for this, looking at it from an angle and with the aim of reducing corruption in the bureaucracy by addressing the security of our government workers. In fact, this should have been included in the Philippine Development Plan. Again, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, if these reforms are made, government employees will have so much to lose if they engage in corrupt practices and thereafter prosecuted and convicted. They will lose all the benefits that ensure their families' economic stability. The net effect is that we will be strengthening our government institutions by having good people who has pride in what they do. For the 15th Congress and succeeding Congresses, CIBAC party list tasked itself to arrive at this comprehensive plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my dear colleagues. A pleasant afternoon.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Tugna to the Committee on Rules.
In objection,